Patch 11.24 brought a new meta, and in this video I'll share my tier list, and then go into my strategy for climbing on this patch, and then run through how to play all those comps very quickly. It's also my first time doing a tier list or patch specific guide, so please let me know what you think about this becoming a series, and also please comment and let me know your feedback about this video as well. So here's my tier list. It is based on my personal experience, what the data says, and also what the top challenger players are playing. First, let me explain what the different tiers mean. I usually only have SA and B tier, but I think adding in C tier makes a lot of sense as each tier is more clear. S tier are comps that you can force every game and still top 4 with. As long as you're not super contested or lowering too hard, it should be really easy to top 4 and maybe also win most of the games. A tier comps can win the game if you get a bit lucky and will almost always top 4 as long as you don't hard force them. B tier comps can both top 4 and win the game if you get a good start with them, meaning you should never force B tier comps, but play them whenever the game gives them to you. C tier comps can top 4 if you get a good opener for them, but you need to get really lucky and hire like crazy if you're going to win the game at all with them. So in general, try to focus on S and A tier comps and play the occasional B and C tier comps when the game gives them to you. Now let's talk about my strategy for climbing on this patch. I really like opening bow on the starting carousel, and then I try to play mainly around Kog'Maw Reroll or Chemtech Urgot. If I get AP items, I will play around either Malzahar Mutants or play Lux if I find more Arcanists. There are more important reasons for starting bow though. The first reason is since you want to have at least 2 bow items on both Kog'Maw and Urgot. Starting bow then is great when defaulting towards one of those 2 comps. Second reason is that Giant Slayer is a great item. It will proc on all the Colossus units, it procs on most units in Chemtech Urgot, and it procs on all 3-star units in the Reroll Kog'Maw comp. And since Giant Slayer uses a bow, starting bow is great to make sure we have enough bows for other items that use the same component. Even if we look at the data, we can see that Giant Slayer is the 5th most built item this patch, and Morello is also great for damage against tanky comps for all the same reasons as Giant Slayer. The third reason for starting bow is that I personally don't like playing around syndicates, and even though I put them in A tier and it is still performing very well, I don't enjoy playing around a legendary as your main carry. Obviously when you hit a Kali, you will be stronger and you will be in a spot to win the game, but when you don't hit a Kali, it doesn't even look like a top 4 that often, unless you had a strong early and mid game. The fourth reason is that Static Shiv uses a bow and is a great item to slam in the early game for mid game power. This item is not bad on Urgot and it's great on Kai'Sa and Kog'Maw, which means that 3 out of the 4 S and A tier comps really like this item or use this item well in the late game. During the early game, I always like holding units for the Kog'Maw comp, and that's because it's strong, and I also really enjoy playing it myself. This is called defaulting, meaning I am forcing Kog'Maw Reroll every game until the game gives me clear direction for another comp. This might seem like a silly reason, but if you enjoy playing a comp, you will generally play better, as you are more motivated to try and improve at every aspect of the comp. In addition, the game is constantly giving you opportunities to lean towards other comps on stage 1 and 2. You just have to keep your eyes open and capitalize on those opportunities. Defaulting is incredibly powerful, as it allows you to always have direction, and direction is the most important thing to have in TFT. Another reason to default Kog'Maw Reroll is because the Kog'Maw opener plays well into both Chemtech Urgot and Mutant Cho'Gath. Here I can use Kog'Maw as an item carrier for Urgot or Malzahar, and I use either Garen or Kassadin as the item holder for Chemtech tanks or Cho'Gath. It is very easy to pivot out of the protectors by replacing them with bruisers when playing Urgot, and it's very easy to add in a mutant at level 5 or 6 and then lean into Cho'Gath. Now let's quickly run through how to play all the comps I mentioned in the tier list. First up in S tier, we have Mutant Colossus. This comp uses Cho'Gath as the primary tank, and uses either Malzahar or Kai'Sa as the main carry. The main strategy is to get to level 8 to get 5 Mutant and 2 Colossus in, and with this comp being very contested right now, it will be hard to roll for both Cho'Gath and Malzahar 3-star, but if you're uncontested, it is your win condition. Sometimes if you are contested, you can still go for the 3-stars, as you can hit whenever your contester dies. And for items, you want 3 tank items on Cho'Gath, the best one being Redemption since he has so much HP. Redemption will heal for a giant amount with each tick. Bramble and Declaw are also great to minimize the damage taken. For Malzahar, you want to have a mana generating item, being either blue buff or Sojin. Morello is also great to make sure units aren't healing back up, and Gunblade is great to continuously heal up your team. For Kai'Sa, the best item on her is Rageblade. This item lets her generate mana quicker, she deals damage based on how many autos she has done in the fight, and it will make her deal insane amounts of damage whenever she ults with Rageblade. Static Shiv is great to reduce the MR of the enemy teams before she ults, and Hodge is great for more effective HP on her and to let her heal up after each ultimate. All the mutant traits work well in this comp, although the Darkstar synergy is pretty bad when running Colossus, as you miss out on 2 stacks for free. In those cases, you might not even want to run 5 mutant and just cut down to 3. The other S tier comp is Urgot. I've already made a guide on this, so I won't talk too much about it, but one major thing to note is that GA is really good on Urgot in this meta, to counter Syndicate Assassins, and to also get a second life against the mutants. While Urgot is reviving from GA, his spell will keep going and dealing damage, which is something that can save you in a lot of cases. One item that should be mentioned here is Static Shiv. This item is not bad on Urgot, but the reason it's so good in the data is because it allows you to get really strong in the early and mid game by slamming Static Shiv. Next up in A tier, we have Syndicate Assassins. The goal here is to get to level 8 to hit Akali. You can also go for Shaco 3-star, but with how broken Akali is right now, you always want to go level 8 before you start rolling. Since this comp relies on a legendary as a carry, it can occasionally be a bot 4 if you don't have the gold to hit Akali, but a Shaco 2-star with good items can also stabilize you for a long time. If you get +1 Syndicates through a spat or an augment, you will replace Yuumi for TF to play 7 Syndicates. As for items, you want IE on both Shaco and Akali to make sure their spells always crit. For Shaco, you want Hurricane as it deals insane amounts of damage with the spell, and you can take out 2 units at the same time. BT or Hodge work as the third item to give him some healing, and Akali wants GA and Archangels as her second and third item, to allow her to stay alive longer, and to get a boatload of AP into the fight. Throw tank items on Braum, although you won't be making too many of them in this comp. Next up in A tier, we have Kog'Maw with Protector Reroll. Here you want to 3-star Caitlyn, Kog'Maw, Graves, and Garen and Kassadin, slow roll at level 5 with this board, and then add in Blitz at level 7 and Malzahar at level 8. Tank items go on Kassadin or Garen depending on the mutant buff, and which units you 3-star first. As for items, you want Stoneplate on Kassadin for the insane amounts of stats he gets from it, and the other 2 tank items are whatever you can make. On Kog'Maw, you want Rageblade and then pick 2 out of Hodge, Giant Slayer, and Static Shiv as the second and third item. Moving on to B tier, we have Katarina. Even though she got nerfed, she is still good as long as you don't hard force the comp. Slow roll at level 6 with this board, and then go for 3-star Katarina, and then add in 6 Assassins late game. In terms of items, you want IE, Hodge, and Spark on Katarina, and the utility items like Morel and Frozen Heart always want to go on Echo. Trundle carry has the same story as Katarina, and since I've already made a guide on how to play Trundle, I won't touch on it too much here. Slow roll at level 6 for a 3-star Trundle via an Echo, then add in more Chemtechs or scrap units, and eventually replace Caitlyn with a better unit. Lux got a little weaker this patch due to the Vex nerfs, but mostly because of the pace of the meta shifting in a more aggressive direction. It is still a great comp if you find an early Vex, and have Arcanists early to use as item carriers. As for items, you can run both Lux and Victor carry, and you want IE and JG on both of them and either Sojourn or Blue buff as their third item. Jhin got buffed overall due to the large Orianna buffs this patch, but it suffers from the more aggressive meta, which makes it harder to get to level 8 and roll for legendaries and 2-star forecasts. But if you hit, you are in a good spot to win the game. It's just the journey there that is really hard to pull off. Items for Jhin are AD items, but Giant Slayer is great, as well as Hurricane and Deathblade to make the Giant Slayer scale even more. Throw tank items on Braum and utility items on either Yuumi or Orianna. Next up in B tier, we have Challenger Yone. This comp got nerfed alongside most other comps. It has the same story as both Jhin and Lux. If you are able to get to level 8 and hit your 2-star forecasts and legendaries, you can win the game, but the path there is hard in an aggressive meta. He wants the same items as before, but now you want another damage item instead of Rageblade as the third item. Last Whisper, IE, and Deathblade are all great third items for Yone. Throw other damage items on Kai'Sa and Fiora to use them as secondary carries as well. And that is my strategy for climbing on patch 11.24. I want to note that they are dropping a B patch on Wednesday at noon Pacific time, which is around 9 PM for Europe, and morning time on Thursday for Asia and Australia. So note that this tier list will probably change as they are giving Cho'Gath a good nerf. Please also give your feedback about this video. Do you want me to go more in depth on something, or do you want me to talk less about something? What did you like and what didn't you like about it? But more importantly, let me know if you want this to become a series that I post after every single patch. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 5,000 other players there who are hungry to climb, and if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.